What's up, everyone? I'm Justin Worthy with the Top Calgary Real Estate team at Real Broker. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Stephanie Martin, who is the founder of Stephanie Martin Interior Design, with a philosophy of creating spaces that reflect the individuality and stories of her clients. Stephanie has transformed interiors since 2008, from tailored designs to timeless aesthetics. She brings a personal touch that sets her apart. Today, we dive deep into how homeowners can achieve beautifully functional spaces that feel both timeless and personal. So let's get started. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and talking to us today about design.
Thank you so much for having me, Justin. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Of course. So let's dive in. What inspired you to start Stephanie Martin Interior Design back in 2008?
Well, back in 2008, it wasn't Stephanie Martin Interior Design. It's really evolved over time. I started this business straight out of college with my best friend who was in design school with me. And it started under a different name, evolved, and has changed. In the last couple of years, I took over the business completely as she moved on to follow a pursuit of painting professionally. And since then, we've rebranded under Stephanie Martin Interior Design, which was a very kind of exciting full circle moment for me.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And how do you balance crafting timeless designs with incorporating also the current trends of today's builds?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question because I would say it's not something that I really am thinking about intentionally in that sense. I don't necessarily think for us it's about what's in style or what's on trend. It's more about kind of getting to know our clients and really understanding them, and then creating a home that not only reflects them, but kind of brings like joy and comfort and a feeling that this is their home. And I think that when you create a home that really reflects the people who live within it, and they're surrounded by things that they love and that brings them comfort and joy, it does become timeless. Of course, we're always keeping up with kind of what's the latest and greatest and what's happening in the fashion of interiors. But we're not ever looking to stick to a particular style where you could walk into that house and be like, this is modern farmhouse, this is, transitional, or this is contemporary. I don't want necessarily that name to it. So we're looking at an abundance of influences, getting to know our clients, and then creating something that's really unique.
That is so cool. I love that approach. And like bringing people's things into the design so that they feel comfortable. I think that really resonates, and that's really cool. What is the most important first step when designing a space for a new client?
Yeah. So when we first start with the design, we actually don't even get into the design. It's all about listening and learning and understanding both our client and the home itself, the architecture of the home, the levels of light that it's going to have, the surrounding area, whether it's a city home or whether it's a country home, and kind of what that looks like, the landscape. We go through a really, really deep and vigorous discovery process with our client. And it starts with a questionnaire that is lengthy, and we've developed it over a number of years. We sit down with our clients and we go room by room through the floor plan, talking about how is it going to function, and how do you entertain in that space? How do you want that to feel? And so the first step is sort of putting the design ideas aside and first learning and listening and understanding what are we trying to accomplish, and are there problems we're trying to solve.
That's really, really neat. I love that. And how do you approach designing spaces that reflect sort of a client's unique personality and their life experiences and those sort of unique things to each and every client?
Yeah, it's such a personal journey to design a home, like a new build or a renovation. And I had a client that I worked with at the end of the project. She was like, oh my gosh, this home feels like me. But how did you do it? Because I didn't even know my style. And I kind of thought about it. And the answer I gave to her was, it's funny, but it is very much what it is for me. And I really spend the time to get to know clients. I'm looking at all of their cues from how they sit down at our meeting. Are they formal? Are they casual? what's their fashion like? What are they wearing? What is their family like? All of these different kind of cues that aren't necessarily what their style is. And I'm thinking about who they are and what they would look like. If they were a room, if they were a house, how would I translate their essence into that? And so really it's like, Justin, if I get to know you, what would you look like if you were a home? It sounds a little hokey, but that really is what it is in my mind. And I'm really trying to create my interpretation to the best of my ability of who these people are at their core and translate that into their home.
Wow, mic drop. That was awesome. Cool. And what are common mistakes homeowners make when attempting a DIY interior design? Because I go in and I show a lot of homes and I look at space and I'm like, wow, that is really professionally done. And then I go into another home and I'm like, wow, that was clearly done by the homeowner. I mean, no disrespect at all, but you can see the difference, right?
You can tell. I like that that's the way you asked the question, because we're very much on the same page with this. And I think it sounds horrible to say, and again, no disrespect, but sometimes the biggest mistake that you can make with a DIY is that it's a DIY. It's doing it yourself. Home renovations take an incredible amount of skill. When we work with trades, like, they are skilled craftsmen and craftswomen. I think that if you're going to take the time to learn how to do it and use the right products and practice, then absolutely. If you're capable of doing it, then absolutely. You want to do it with precision and practice. But if you're just in there kind of slapping the paint on the walls, or worse yet, your cabinets, it's going to show a poor paint job, using the wrong product. It shows wear and tear. It ages poorly. And I think it decreases the value of your home. So I would say that understanding that not everything can be done by everyone, and taking the time to bring in a professional to do those things is probably your best bet.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if everybody would just stay in their lane and do what they do best, I think it would make things much easier and much more streamlined. So I couldn't agree more. That's awesome.
Yeah, the people in the trades, they are incredibly skilled. Like I said, craftspeople and artisans. And it's not everybody who can go in and recreate that and do that. They really are quite skilled at what they do.
Absolutely. Like, if I tried to go in and install tile, it would be a disaster. So yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
And how do you strike the perfect balance between functionality and aesthetic in your projects? Because I know that, just because something looks beautiful doesn't necessarily mean that it functions well for that individual.
Yes. And it really does have to be both, but we always start with function. So finding that balance, it's really about like what you're prioritizing. We start with the function. What are the problems we need to solve? What are the limitations of the space, and how can we address that? We make sure that we have the function as the foundation of our designs, and then we work through the aesthetics and making it look nice. I mean, of course, the space has to look gorgeous, but if the homeowner's day-to-day experience in that space isn't as elevated as the look, they're not happy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's massive. And what are some, I guess, design elements that don't necessarily cost a lot, but can provide a big impact on smaller spaces?
Yes. So it's counterintuitive, but in a small space, you actually need to go large. Too many small items in a small space feels cluttered and accentuates how small it is. You feel tight and jammed in there. If you have a small living room and you put a large, bold, high impact, beautiful piece of art, floor to ceiling draperies, and a beautiful sofa, maybe one armchair, it feels like you have room to breathe in the space, and that's what's going to make it feel bigger.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And what tips would you give to homeowners looking to refresh their interiors, but they would like to do it on a bit of a budget?
Yeah, firstly, take your time. It's okay for a home to evolve over time, and you want to invest in quality pieces that are going to last you. I hate the throwaway kind of culture and mentality. So invest in good quality pieces that have, durable, well-wearing fabrics, a coat of paint, and floor to ceiling draperies can go a very long way, making sure that, you are focusing on kind of that quality, and maybe you need to do it one room at a time. But I would say that for all clients, larger budget, smaller budget, I always tell them that a coat of paint and beautiful draperies, purging and organizing your space goes a long way to refreshing it, and none of that costs a ton.
Wow. Very, very, very neat. I love that. And I think, just like you said, just simplifying the space and taking things out. I mean, that's massive. It's really, really a great tip.
Yeah. A lot of times design isn't always about what we put in, but it's about how we edit it. And a well-edited space feels fantastic.
A well-edited space feels fantastic. I love that. Can you share an example of a project where you transformed a challenging space into something extraordinary?
Yes. Well, hopefully all of our spaces. No, we did one renovation in Elbow Park that definitely stands out to me. When you walked into the home, it felt so small. The kitchen, dining room, and living room were all at the front of the house with no windows to the back. And then behind that was an office and a full bedroom with an ensuite and closet. So the only windows to the backyard, the only access to the backyard, and about half of the main floor was eaten up by these rooms that were not used. There was enough bedrooms for the family upstairs. So we actually brought in a giant structural beam and opened that floor right up. The bedroom, ensuite, and closet became the kitchen with a beautiful window and door into the backyard and to the back deck. And when you walked into the home, it felt like we had expanded the square footage, and we hadn't, but it was just rejigging the floor plan a little bit. And I think for me, sometimes looking at the floor plan and saying, you know what, like we could redo your cabinets, great. But if we moved your kitchen to this space and moved your living room to where the morning light comes in or that type of thing, it's reworking the floor plan that I think you really find that magic.
Wow, that's cool. I really want to see some pictures of this space. So send those to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'll have to show you.
That'd be awesome. What are your go-to strategies for creating spaces that feel cohesive yet personalized?
We always start our projects by building out a concept. So, we can talk about things till the cows come home. I want, you could throw out any design aesthetic. I want something that is new, traditional, and you and I have very different visions in our mind. So we start with kind of accumulation of imagery, and it's not always other interiors, although sometimes it is. Sometimes it might be a piece of art or a piece of fabric that really, tells the color story that we're after. It could be something from nature, but we bring accumulation of these things together and kind of let that tell the story of what we're hoping to achieve in the home. It ensures that we're on the same page with clients, and it really gives us a great sounding board as we move through the process and design to keep coming back to that and be like, this is the vision that we're looking to build off of. This is what we're looking to achieve. So do these design ideas or selections reflect that? So we're always bringing it back to that initial concept. And then I think that what we try to do, especially in a large home, we want it to feel cohesive, but we don't want everything to be matchy-matchy. You move through a space and it's nice when you go into a room and there's a new personality a little bit. It feels a bit different, but you'll see that most of our homes have the same base palette. And we'll draw things from one room to the other. So if we have a really beautiful marble, for example, on the fireplace in one room, as you move into another room, it might have a different personality, but the fabrics may pull some of the colors from that marble. So we kind of pull these threads through the space without making it obviously matching.
Wow. Okay. Very, very neat. I just learned a few new things right there. That's amazing.
I'm glad.
What trends in interior design are you most excited about right now? I know that, there's so many things happening in the interior design world. But what makes you the most pumped?
I think, the interior design trends often follow fashion quite closely. And with both, we're seeing just way more individualized and creative expression. So we're seeing things that are varying in scales. Women are wearing very wide leg pants, for example, or a large blazer. And we're seeing the same like play of the big and the small scale in homes. And we're seeing pattern play and different shapes. We just are having a powder room vanity installed actually over the course of this week, where it's blocks of stone all stacked and set off from each other. And
wow.
It was difficult to make, but everyone was so excited to do something that was really just unique and cool that we all sat down to figure out how it was going to work. And I think that I'm most excited to see how eclectic interiors are coming, that people are looking to step outside the box, looking to do something that's very unique and individual. And we're seeing the same kind of expression in fashion throughout. And it just feels fun. It feels lively, a little bit avant-garde, a little bit risky. And that kind of gets me going. I love that.
That's really, really cool. And I guess as it pertains to that question as well, how do you recommend that homeowners approach mixing patterns, colors, textures, all of those things? Because for me, I mean, I like selling real estate. That's what I do day to day. But when it comes to design, I look at different textures, different patterns, different materials, and I'm like, wow, where do I start?
Yeah. So I always start with whatever is the most impactful or the most bold or the most risky. So if you have a pattern that's large in scale or quite colorful, that's kind of your showpiece. And then you're looking for supporting elements. And so again, I find that talking about this with clients, everybody kind of understands from a fashion standpoint. If you have a loud dress, you go a little bit more simplistic with your jewelry. If you've got a statement necklace, you're wearing a plain top. So when you're looking at mixing patterns and play and textures and interiors, a lot of those rules apply. So we've got, maybe a showpiece and we're looking for the supporting elements. We've got one large, bold pattern. We're maybe going to go more textural with the other fabrics and finishes there. We've got a great high impact light fixture over the dining room. The wall sconces are going to be a little bit more subtle. So we don't need to have everything fighting. We need everything cohesive. And if you're somebody who's looking to do this yourself, I always suggest storyboarding it. So bring all of those things together and layer them, and you will quickly see what works and what doesn't work. And again, it comes down to the edit. At the end of the day, it's the edit.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. So what is your favorite room in a home to design, and why is it that room that you enjoy designing most?
The kitchen, which is probably the most obvious answer for most designers, but the kitchen for me, there's so much opportunity to do something in there. And I usually start with the kitchen and the rest of the home evolves from there. So looking at bringing in an array of finishes and colors and, what cabinet hardware are we doing, or what lighting, like the metal details. The kitchen really says so much about the style of the home that I start there and I enjoy it so much. It's where everyone gathers. It's where so much happens. If you think about memories in your home, I'm willing to bet that a lot of those favorite childhood moments, times when you're seeking comfort, intimate conversations with a loved one, I bet you they happen in your kitchen.
Absolutely. And it's my favorite spot in a home too, because that's where you get to eat.
Yeah. And eating, of course, and eating.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And how do you guide clients who may not know what they want or feel overwhelmed by choices?
Yeah, very slowly. It's a big undertaking and one that's quite often emotionally charged. And I do not push clients or pressure clients. I love the process of design. So when someone comes to me who feels intimidated or overwhelmed by it, my goal is to really share my love of that process with them and give that experience to them. We have a very process-driven studio and we're very systematic. So I tell clients, you can sit back at the table and enjoy the show. Listen as we walk you through the concept and then the initial finishes and describe the millwork to you. But we give them a lot of time to kind of process and ask questions and understand that it's not something they're doing every day. And for some people, it's something they do one time in their life. And it's something that we take very seriously, is that it is a big emotional, overwhelming process for clients. And so we take them through it with a really kind of empathetic approach.
That's really, really, really neat. I love that. And I guess when it comes to first-time home buyers trying to define their style, what kind of advice would you give a first-time home buyer that's really trying to define their style when it comes to interior design?
I would tell them, first of all, don't look to copy something else, because it always comes off feeling a little contrived.
Yeah.
Storyboard, take, pictures, color palettes, fabrics. Yes, definitely in some interiors that you love. Put all of those pieces together, on a PDF board, sign into Canva, throw it all in, look for those kind of common threads, look to see what you gravitate towards, and then don't be afraid to make your home your own. I know that people are always worried about resale and this and that, but I think for me, the homes, our projects that are the most successful are the ones that are different, where people walk in and are wowed and they haven't seen it before. So I think that go to what you love, start there, see what you're naturally gravitated towards. It doesn't need to be what is in the magazine or what the show home looks like. It needs to be something that you come home to every day and enjoy.
Wow, that's huge. I love that, because home is where the heart is, and I think when you feel good in a space and it feels good to come home to it, that's truly home. So that's really cool, inspirational advice. If somebody wants to make a space feel luxurious without a high-end budget, what do you think they should be doing?
So similar to my advice on small spaces, take it slow and let it evolve. Invest in good quality upholstery pieces, durable fabrics. Focus on higher impact, larger items than a bunch of small knick-knacky stuff. Statement lighting, a large piece of art, always floor to ceiling drapery, and just watch scale. So having an area rug that is properly scaled where all of your furniture fits on it feels immensely more luxurious than, a little carpet in the center. Having beautiful floor to ceiling panels as opposed to kind of DIY like grommet draperies. I would say just, again, slow and steady, evolve it with time, and focus on that quality.
What is one project that you've done in the past that really stands out in your mind where you're like, wow, I feel like that was a project that I'll remember forever, and why?
Oh, you know what? I had the opportunity when I was on mat leave, actually. My mom was building a home, and of course, my mom asked me to design her house. But it was such an interesting experience because I didn't have any other projects on because I was on maternity leave. And I worked so closely with her to design a home that really reflected my mother, who is somebody, of course, that I know inside out. And it was almost like an emotional process because it meant so much to me, because it meant so much to her. And we did it together, with my brand new son and my mom and I over the course of a year. And it gave me such an insight and appreciation for how clients feel when they're going through it, right? What their experience is if a project is delayed, how emotionally connected they can get to a selection of slab of marble or a light fixture. What is that like if it goes out discontinued or is over budget? Like I had such a deeper appreciation for what that feels like doing it for someone who I love so much. And it was one project in my career that, because I wasn't working on anything else, I just got to enjoy every single moment of it. And that for me will always be my favorite project. And, being able to give the gift back of design to someone who supported me my whole life in developing that was so special. It's like nothing else.
Wow, what a great answer. That's fantastic. I want to see some pictures of that space at some point too.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so neat. That's great. So I guess one last question that I have for you is, if somebody wants to do an interior design project, what is the best way that they can get a hold of you, your social media channels, your Instagram, your website, all of that sort of good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, any which way that works for them. You can go onto my website and learn a ton about what we do and how we do it, what our client experience is, and you can reach me straight from there. There's a form you can fill out. You can message me on Instagram. You can send me an email directly, whatever works for you. I'm always happy to hear from someone and hear about what their project looks like.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today and fill us with design expertise and inspiration. And we can't wait to see your future projects.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was wonderful to chat with you. And I loved going through the questions that you asked. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Like, follow, and subscribe. Whether you're a homeowner, a first-time buyer, a seller, an investor, or a home builder, we've got tips, insights, and strategies that you need to succeed. Like this video, follow us for updates, and hit that subscribe button with a notification bell so you never miss our latest content. It's free and it helps us bring you even more valuable knowledge. Your next big real estate move starts right here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.